Every day, millions of people go online to search for local businesses. Does your small business show up? When you create a website on WordPress.com, you make it easier for your customers to find you, to connect with you, to hear how you can help them. Your business needs an online home. It needs a WordPress.com website. You don't need experience setting up websites. WordPress guides you through the process from start to finish. They take care of the technical stuff, so it's easy to get your site up and running. Their customer support team is made up of WordPress experts eager to help you get the most from your site. They're available to help 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and weekends. Plans start at just $4 a month, and all WordPress plans include a custom domain name for the life of the plan. Come see why 28% of all websites run on WordPress. Get started today with 15% off any new plan purchase. Go to WordPress.com/Golic to create your website and find the plan that's right for you. That's WordPress.com/Golic for 15% off your brand new website. WordPress.com/Golic.
Rolling through a Wednesday morning. Glad you're with us. The first Wednesday of the new year, 2018. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic. On ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And Mike, you mentioned this yesterday, or maybe it was Monday, I'm not sure, when the new year changes and you got to write a check, and we gave you a bunch of grief. Who writes checks anymore?
Yeah.
I actually had to write a check.
See that? There you go.
I had to write a check this morning.
And did you think about it?
I did. I double clutched. I'm like, and then I went down this morning. Did I actually write the number? I wanted to make sure. I had to write off my fantasy football check for once again not winning.
There you go.
I'm like, wait, did I do it right? I want to make sure.
That?
We were giving you grief. I did actually write a check.
And I should have said more than just check, because you fill out all kind of forms,
paperwork,
doctor's office, whatever.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you have to put the year. But as I said, 2017 is very easy to correct the 7 to an 8 though right
just
now.
Make
so
it
it's
look
not
like
bad.
an hourglass.
Exactly right. Yeah, so it can work out pretty well.
Instead of a curved 8, it's more like a triangle hourglass.
But you can pull it off, right?
You can. It's much easier to do than like a 7 to a 3. That would be bad. That would be impossible.
Yeah.
So we are glad you're with us. Again, we talked about the guests coming up. John Gruden will join us in just a few minutes.
Yes, wild card play. This is when we get to playoff Saturday, Sunday too.
Yes,
I love that.
absolutely.
You miss the college. Now we'll get that on Monday. But when the regular season ends for college, you have the championship weekend, and then you're void of that Saturday college football. But you got some Saturday pro football, and now you get those two games on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. I love this part, and it ends too soon, unfortunately.
It is. You get that for wild card weekend. You get it for divisional weekend, which a lot of people think is the best weekend in sports because you have 2 games both Saturday and Sunday.
Awesome.
Then all leading up to championship Sunday, which I think is the greatest day of the entire NFL year. We can get into that a little bit later. Kyle Williams will join us as well, of the Buffalo Bills, Kirk Herbstreit and Brian Windhorst. But let's get into what's trending. That's the sounder that we chose. Isaiah Thomas, 17 points in his Cavs debut on Tuesday in Cleveland's win over Portland, but he's going to set out the game tonight when he faces his old team, Boston, on ESPN. It's the first time since the season opener these two will face, but they're trying to avoid back-to-back games for Isaiah at the moment.
Well, listen, I get it, and it looks weird, and we'll talk to Brian Windhorst later on in the show about that. It's actually against his former team now and all the build-up that's going to be, but I just think it happens to be that team, because I'm sure there were those that say, why didn't you hold off last night and make his debut tonight? And because you're not sure what you're going to get, out of him. But what you got was 19 minutes and 17 points. You got some really good Isaiah Thomas play, and what you got is for Cleveland fans and the Cleveland, I think, team to say, okay, this could be good for us, because the point guard play had been basically last or next to last as far as production.
I think under 9 points, I think it was.
Had been bad from assists to points to minutes, so it had been bad. And he came in and did a nice job in game 1. So the big thing, we always talk about this with any kind of injury, it's about long layoff, short layoff, whatever, is when you first come back, how are you the next day? This morning is the key. You play last night, how are you feeling this morning? How much treatment will you need to get back to where you were before the game? That's going to be the buildup for him, getting into playing shape, number one. Now, basketball is a game where in practice you can do a lot of running as well. Like in football, you can't get in football shape until you put pads on and start hitting.
Right.
Basketball shape, you can run and do some things, but there's still the game shape of getting, because you're not getting banged around in practice like you are in a game in basketball, to whatever extent that's going to happen for him. So he's got to go through that, but today is very important. So I get why they're sitting him win today and not going back-to-back games right now. You know what? You don't need to. You don't need to make a big deal. They're going to play the Celtics again. You don't need to lose your mind here right now. The main thing is this guy needs to be right by playoffs.
We move on to college basketball. Number 10, Kansas lost its third home game of the season, 85-73 to 18th-ranked Texas Tech.
Amazing. 80-3 in the last 5 seasons at home, and all 3 of those losses coming this year. That is pretty crazy. Congrats to Texas Tech on getting that win. But, I mean, when you have dominance at home like that, and then you give up 3 already this year. That not only from a physical standpoint, but a mental standpoint of, man, this had always been our edge, and right now, we don't have that edge anymore.
Yeah, they're 80-3 over their last.
I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? I'm sorry.
That's okay. 80-3 in their home games. Although one of those games this year again was in Kansas City, not in Allen Fieldhouse. But
still
again,
considered a home game.
Absolutely,
but,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But Bill Self 220-10. In Allen Fieldhouse in his 14 seasons. He's now 226-12, which just makes it just shows you the stark contrast we've had this year and what's going on with Kansas. And then there's this. Mike Tyson breaking ground on his California marijuana ranch, according to theblast.com. The former heavyweight champ will try and get into the marijuana industry. He and his partner broke ground on December 20th for a cannabis resort 110 miles north of L.A.
Listen, I would like to know, this is what business people will do is you see something coming down the road and how early can you get in?
Right.
When they first legalize, when you're legalizing marijuana, who's the first to have the store up or to grow it or to get themselves in a position to take advantage? Because marijuana isn't legal everywhere, but I think it's going to be at some point. So who are the forward thinkers? Now, rarely do you say Mike Tyson and forward thinkers, I don't know, but part of his, business team or whatever you're looking for that says, okay, we know this is going to happen down the road in a lot of states, and I think the rest of the states are nationally become legal, or if it's up to the states, each state. And how can you get in on the ground floor? Where can you get in to take advantage of this situation? Because it's going to happen. This is a train that's going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
Rolling.
I see what you did there.
Rolling.
I got it. So I understand. Exactly.
Is that even done anymore, the rolling, or so much of the vaping? I don't know what goes on anymore.
We'll find out.
I have to break that down.
We'll break that down later. Different segment on the show.
Yeah.
All right. Lots
we
to
bring
get
on
to.
A stoner on? Is that they even call them that anymore?
I don't know.
As an analyst?
But let's keep going down that road.
Okay.
We'll continue now as we're delighted to be joined on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line by John Gruden. Of course, a former head coach for the Raiders and Bucks, won a Super Bowl with the Bucks, and he's calling the Titans-Chiefs playoff game for us Saturday at 4:20 Eastern on Wild Card Weekend. John, thanks for being with us. We'll get to all of that, but obviously your name has been in the news quite a bit the last few days. Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen reporting that they believe you're going to be the next head coach of the Oakland Raiders. You've said, yes, you believe you are being considered. So what can you tell us now about that? Are you going to be the next head coach of the Raiders?
Well, that's up to Mark Davis. I have had conversations with Mark, and they're still, I believe, going through the interview process. And when he knows, I think we'll all know. But I appreciate Adam and Chris's confidence that I have a chance of getting that job. It's awful nice of them.
So I guess the question would be, if Mark Davis calls you and said, we've gone through all our candidates, and, John, you're the one we choose, we'd like you to be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders, will you be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders?
I think there's a good chance. I'm excited about where I am in terms of studying the game and prepared to come back and coach. I just don't want to sit here and speculate, and it's almost like I don't know what's going to happen, Mike. I got to be honest with you. It's been a long couple weeks. I know they've gone through their process of interviewing candidates, and until they're done, I won't know, but I did have a good meeting with Mark. I've known him a long time and got a lot of respect for the Raider football organization.
Then more on a general thing, because we just had Bruce Arians on yesterday who just called it quits and said, boy, at some point he turned around and his wife said it's his son's birthday, and he's like, his son Jacob turned 40. It was like, wow. I know you went through coaching. Your sons have grown up some, and now the possibility of going back. But we've seen like Bill Cowher go into the media and not come back, and I understand some reasons there. Jimmy Johnson as well. And it's always been talked about with you whether it would happen out. We've seen it in baseball with some managers leaving and then coming back. What's the draw with you coaches? What is it, even though you've been out for a while now? So this is a more general question that says, you know what, I want to get back to doing this again.
Well, you miss the players. You miss the grind. You miss the journey. Obviously, you miss winning, the opportunity to win. But I just miss being on a team. A lot of times I wake up, I miss being on a team. I do love my Monday night team. That's what's been outstanding. I've had a great opportunity to work with some exceptional people. But the peaks and valleys that go along with the football season are things I think all coaches always miss when they get away from it. But, again, not to speculate very much. I'm being completely honest. I don't know what's going to happen. I've been through contract negotiations with the Raiders before. I can tell you I was traded in 2001. So I'm not going to do anything except go about my business as a Monday Night Football guy for ESPN. I'm excited for this game on Saturday.
And John, we understand that, and listen, that's one of the reasons Herm Edwards left us to go back to be the head coach of Arizona State, because he said he wanted to feel the grass under his feet one more time. And we'll get into that Titans game, I promise, but I have one last question about the Raiders situation. It's been reported that they offered you ownership in the team and some of the things that they've talked about. What can you tell us about that?
There's no truth to that at all. I heard Stephen Smith screaming at me on TV yesterday on one of his shows.
Well, he does that to everybody, so just so you know.
That's one of the most, there's no validity to that at all. None, zero. So that's a nice segment that I saw, but no ownership, that's for sure.
All right, well,
Trey.
All right, well, John, we appreciate you answering that.
We do. So nothing there, and if Mark calls and offers you the job, then you go back to doing what you love to do in coaching. So that's fantastic. Until that time, you got a game to call on Saturday, Titans and the Chiefs. So as we look at that game, we saw the Chiefs start Pat Mahomes, but we know obviously they go back to the starters now, and the Titans coming into the end of the season the way they have as well to get into the playoffs. You talk a lot about how you're finishing a season and how you are by the end and playing. Where do you put these two teams as how they're going into the playoffs and what kind of shape?
I think Kansas City's playing good football down the stretch. Their win against the Chargers at home a couple weeks ago was very impressive. Offensively, they looked to have found their groove again. The big three is going to be hard to stop. The running back, Hunt, is spectacular, and he looks like he's revived. His legs are back. He's running hard. Tyreek Hill, good luck stopping him. He is everywhere, and he can change the scoreboard instantly, just like he did last year against the Titans in the regular season. And Kelsey is a terrible mismatch problem for everyone. So the big three are in high gear, I think, for the Chiefs. Andy Reid, trust Alex Smith, who's had a week off. His arm will be alive. It'll be interesting. I really think they're going to be a hard out at home. But their defense, the Chiefs' defense, has struggled. They have obviously been missing Dee Ford and Tom Bahali's presence all year as pass rushers. Losing the great safety man early in the season is a terrible loss for them. And I just am anxious to see if Marcus Mariota and this Tennessee Titan offense can live up to, I think, their potential. They've added some really good receivers. The rookie Davis brought in Eric Decker. Rashard Matthews can play. Delaney Walker's a Pro Bowler. They got the smash mouth offense. It's time for them to fly. And I think noise and weather is going to be a big part of this game too, Mike.
No question. Best smelling stadium anywhere is
Without
Arrowhead,
question.
with that barbecue comes wafting in from the parking lot. But John, you mentioned it. It's time for this offense to fly, and you mentioned Mariota. It has been a real regression year for him. Obviously, he's coming back from the leg injury. He's had some hamstring issues this year. What do you think's been missing from his performance in 2017?
I think two things. Number one, they have a lot of new characters. We talked about Davis, who's a rookie who missed a lot of time. They missed a lot of practice time together. And Decker came over late in the process from the Jets. So there are some new pieces that have been moving. And the injury is huge for Marcus. I know he's played through it, but this man uses his legs to create so much offense. And watching him run around late in the fourth quarter against Jacksonville last week makes me feel like, you know what, he's back. And I think losing time on the practice field with his injury, with Davis's injury, I think it hurt him. I think obviously the leg injury is a little bit more serious and perhaps lingered longer than people think. But I got a lot of confidence in Mariota in big games. Can he handle the ball in the cold weather? Some of these people from Hawaii don't like going to Arrowhead in January.
As far as Kansas City, we've heard all the talk, and we saw that Andy Reid, who is so respected as a coach, moving up big time to get a Pat Mahomes, who started the last game, and the thoughts of him going forward. Do you see this as, or what discussions I would imagine do you have to have as Andy Reid and with Alex Smith that maybe whenever a lot of people are speculating whenever the season ends, whether it's this weekend, next weekend, or whatever, that it's going to be the end of Alex Smith and the beginning of Pat Mahomes. If that's been decided by Andy Reid already, do you think Alex Smith knows that as well?
I think Alex Smith, after meeting with him and getting to know him over the years, Mike, I think he has a real good idea of the reality of his long-term future in Kansas City. It might last another year. He's had a spectacular year, and they might keep him another year to help bring this young quarterback along. But Alex Smith has been through this before. This isn't his first rodeo. He's been through multiple changes in San Francisco, and I think he realizes that Mahomes is the future of the Chiefs, but the future doesn't start today. It's all about the single elimination tournament, and this guy is such a professional. He is such a team guy. I don't think Alex Smith is giving it one grain of thought.
John Gruden with us on Golic and Wingo. Of course, he'll be calling the wild card game between the Chiefs and the Titans. And again, as we talked earlier on the show, if the Raiders do indeed come calling with an offer, it looks like he will be taking that job and heading to Oakland and then eventually on to Las Vegas. John, let's talk a little bit about the Philadelphia Eagles because they are the number one seed in the NFC. But it sure doesn't feel like they're a number one seed because of the injury to Carson Wentz. The offense has really struggled over the last 2 weeks. Nick Foles came in against the Giants and actually looked great. 4 touchdown passes, completed or converted 46%. The offense did of their third down conversions. But in the last 2 weeks, whether it was him or Nate Sudfeld, that offense has just been non-existent. How concerned are you about what has been a great season for Philadelphia may come up flat because of what obviously happened at the most important position in team sports in this country?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of concern. The weather, too, the last 2 weeks has been very, very difficult to throw the ball in Philadelphia against the Raiders and the Cowboys, and it may be that way in the playoffs. But remember when Foles took over, Trey, he took over late in the season when Wentz got hurt against the Rams. And if you go watch a professional football team practice these days, the backup quarterbacks, they get no reps. So I think a lot of this is going to be how much reps, how many things can they do to enhance Nick Foles on game day. They're getting to know each other now, his strengths, his weaknesses, things perhaps they got to avoid with him. But the bottom line is Wentz was spectacular. He still should be considered the MVP of the entire league. He made so many plays with his legs, and that's not Nick Foles' game. Things have to be a little bit cleaner in the pocket. Receivers have to be open. The protection has to be there, and he's just not a guy that goes out and makes a lot of creative plays scrambling around, and that's what Wentz did a lot. You don't know how many times he bailed Philadelphia out of dire situations.
As far as the AFC, obviously New England, the number one seed, and most people pointing to Pittsburgh as being their biggest threat, but there are some that say, not Pittsburgh the biggest threat, that it's Jacksonville that could be the biggest threat to New England. Are you buying into that, or is it still Pittsburgh to you?
I'm still staying with the Steelers. I think Roethlisberger, big games. If they get Antonio Brown back, I think they're a problem. They can deal with the cold weather. I like Jacksonville. I'm just concerned a little bit with their offense. If they need to score at the end of a football game in a 2-minute drill, if they're behind, I don't know that they can do that. But the one thing that Jacksonville is going to do is they're going to play outstanding defense. Man, are they impressive. They can shut you down on the corner with Boye and Ramsey, and they do a great job with their scheme, getting some one-on-one rushes up front. They got guys that can get the passer. But when you look at this tournament, Mike, you must agree there's 6 or 7 dark horse teams that we really don't know much about in the playoff format. Remember, Buffalo's in the tournament. The Saints, no one thought they'd be in the tournament. The Rams have turned things around. This entire field has a lot of unknowns. That's what makes it very exciting for me.
Well, certainly, and you mentioned Buffalo. Kyle Williams will be joining us in a little bit to talk about the Bills finally ending that 17 season playoff drought, and that's the Doug Marrone Bowl as they go up against his old team, their old coach in Jacksonville. I want to ask you about one of your old players, though, John. John Lynch, safety for you with the Bucks, obviously up for the Pro Football Hall of Fame now. What are your memories of him as a player and the things he was able to do for you?
You know, the thing I remember most about John Lynch is just looking in front of the team in the meeting room at how wired he was. He didn't like football. He loved football. he had to bring every single day. I don't know how he woke up in the morning. He must have got very little sleep. He looked like he loved football more than any guy I've ever coached. He had a presence about him on the field as a leader. He was an incredible communicator, and he was one of the biggest hitters in pro football for almost a decade. But he had great ball skills. If we played him deep, if we put him up near the line of scrimmage, he was a force. He played like a linebacker. Just a great professional football player. What he did in the community here in Tampa, I can't imagine him not being in the Hall of Fame, and I wish him the best. I'm so proud for his success in San Francisco. He's one of the really, really good guys.
And we certainly looks like they found their quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo with the way he's played down the stretch.
Absolutely.
John Lynch doing a good job there. John, we appreciate you being with us. Good luck on the game this weekend with you and Sean calling the Titans and Chiefs. And if it does indeed turn out that you are headed on to Oakland, I will miss you on the draft this year, my friend.
Yeah, thanks. I'll miss you guys too. We'll see what happens, and no matter what, I consider you guys my very good friend, and look forward to catching up again.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much. Appreciate that.
All right, guys. See you later.
He combined us as one person, by the way.
Yes, he did.
His very good friend.
But him on the draft, watching it, boy, oh boy, yeah.
I mean, one of the real pleasures of doing the draft is the last few years you go down and you sit with John. He has that whole complex where he has the Gruden quarterback camp and all that stuff. He has a whole office down there where we just set up, and he's got tape on every single player that you want to talk about in the draft. And we go in there. It's me and Mel and a bunch of other people, and Lewis and Susie Colbert, and we're all sitting there and we're just watching all the tape going back. If you are a football guy, a football junkie, being in that room and listening to John break down the tape.
Lots of tape. Listen, I lived on that. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And listen, I don't think there's any doubt. And now they have a contract that they would have to work out that John is going to be the next coach of the Raiders. Right?
With the relationship, if they offer him the job,
and I get him saying that, but I don't have any doubt that they're going to offer him the job. Right. Obviously, working out the details of what they want to spend,
which will not include ownership.
According to John, it will not, because that listen, as I even said, I love any coach or anybody in any job to get the most money they possibly can, but from a business side of it, I just couldn't see other owners, because they would have to have agreed to that. That would have had to have been approved, that they would do that without making it a very slippery slope. So you heard John Gruden say no ownership involved in the negotiations, and if he's offered the job, that he'll be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders. So I have a pretty good feeling he'll be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders and then the Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah. So good for him. Yeah. You know what? If you have that want to, like Herm did, to get back in to the coaching after being out for a year, good for them, and it'll be a benefit to the players.
And by the way, who's very happy to hear that more than anybody else, Bob Kraft. So he's not getting Bill Belichick on line one. Let's talk ownership.
Yeah.
50-50, you and me. What do you say, big guy? So that is not going to happen. But again, we'll see what happens with John, but he will be calling the game for us. Titans-Chiefs playoff game Saturday at 4:20. That, of course, was the voice of Kyle Williams, Buffalo Bills tackle, who, of course, has been in the league for 12 seasons, former All-American at LSU, 5-time Pro Bowler, scored his first touchdown on Sunday.
And you know what? I'm so happy, A, he scored the touchdown, and B, they made the playoffs, because it'll take the sting out of the fact that my alma mater beat his alma mater in the bowl game.
You went there right away.
Oh, I did. Come on, I had some fun with Booger, so I had to have some fun here before he comes on and yells at me.
Well, see, Golik's mean. I'm happy. I'm a nice guy. So we're welcoming in
Yes, as a D-lineman, he has scored a touchdown, and I never did. So.
There you go. Joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Kyle, first and foremost, congratulations on the Bills ending that drought. What was the scene like? We saw the video of all you guys watching the end of the Bengals-Ravens game in the locker room. When you finally sunk in and you saw the Boyd touchdown and you guys were going to the playoffs, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
You're just so grateful, for, been here 12 years and so many things have happened, ups and downs, and, you have surgeries and you're coming back from things, and, just grateful for, the opportunity to be there in that moment. You kind of envisioned it and you wanted it to happen, and, not having it happen so many times for it to finally happen, to be here when it happened I was just grateful. I was in there with my sons, and it was just a fun time for everybody there.
Does it now? It can't erase obviously everything of not making the playoffs, but does it mute some of the pain that you went through the last however many years, well, your entire career there, obviously, before making the playoffs? Does it mute that some?
Well, I just think it makes it worth it, right? You're going through everything because you want an opportunity to be a world champion. You want a chance to win a Super Bowl. And, for the first time in my career, this is really the first chance I've gotten. So, it makes it worth it. And, like I said, there's so many ups and downs, but to be able to celebrate there with my teammates and, a couple of my sons, it was a really special moment and something I won't forget.
Well, we saw the video of you running around on the field with your sons afterwards, but obviously the playoffs is the Sunday for you guys. The cherry had to be the touchdown. And the thing that we loved about that, they had clearly worked on that. That wasn't a last-second decision to put you in, right, because you guys had a coordinated celebration. So take us through the idea when you knew that play was going to be called, and if it was successful, you knew what you were going to do.
Well, we had worked on it a little bit during the week, and it was mostly about transition and handoff and make sure I was comfortable with that. And I knew when we got the pass interference in the end zone, we were going to be 1st and 1 from the 1. So I said, if they're ever going to run it, now's the time. I don't want to imagine us hanging our hat on that play on a 3rd down, and we ran it and we got in. And as far as the celebration goes, it was totally spur of the moment, spontaneous. We're all jumping up and down like, what are we going to do? I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was somebody else. Was like, oh, let's do a bomb, throw it up in there, we'll all fall. And we're like, great, do it. We threw it and just fell down. It was just a lot of fun celebrating those guys and, trying to celebrate to the max because I don't know if that'll ever happen again.
Talking to Kyle Williams, defensive tackle for Buffalo, as they get ready to play in their first playoff game in a long, long time.
1999 season.
1999. So I know you had one other carry in a game in 2000. Not carry, but you were on the field and you blocked in that play when Chan Gailey was a coach. But I know you practiced it a couple of times during the week. But when you know it's coming to you, so the play is called, it's coming to you, you're a D lineman, you're not used to handling the ball. What was your as you were getting down in your stance, going through the play, what was your biggest worry?
Well, I couldn't hear Tyrod's cadence, so I had to watch the ball. So that was number one. And then once I didn't false start, it was ball security. I say, okay, I can't fumble this because if I find a way to screw this up, they're never going to let you do it again. They call your number, they put something in specifically for you, and if you screw it up, you're out. So I'm like, okay, those were the two things. I said, if I get stopped or something like that, nobody really expected you to score a rushing touchdown anyway. But if you get a pre-snap penalty or you fumble the ball and you get a turnover, you're on the blacklist. So those are the two things going through my mind. And luckily I got the ball, and basically all I did was fall for about 1.5 yards into the end zone. Just about anybody could do that.
I don't, but you did it, Kyle. That's the thing. You did it. Now, I don't want you to give away, any game plan or anything, but if we see 1st and 1, on the 1 yard line against Jacksonville, could we see a reappearance of you on the field?
Well, all I'm saying is I've had one opportunity to score a touchdown, and I've got one touchdown. So, it might be the making of a monster here. I might be calling for the ball. I might be yelling at the offensive coordinator on the sideline. I never know how far I might go with this thing.
Hey, man, you're going to be a wide receiver before we know it. Just calling for the ball. You're always open. But, Kyle, here's the one thing I have a concern about. Can we get you on the hands team on onside kicks? Because you guys have had some issues with the Buffalo Bills with the Miami Dolphins in that one department in the 2 games you guys have played this year against them.
Yeah, I don't know if those guys know how to put a little extra wiggle on the onside or what, but I think our guys will figure it out. At least hopefully. We don't need to do that too many more times.
Well, thankfully you won't have to do that this year. And as Mike said, you're now going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is the Baloney Bowl or the Doug Marrone Bowl, as your former head coach who left you guys after a winning season. Thought he was going to get a job in the NFL, had to sit out for a while. Now he's the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Is there extra motivation for you because of the way it ended with Doug Marrone in Buffalo?
Not for me. I'm one of the few that was here when he was here. And, as far as I'm concerned, the past is the past. And the thing about being around the NFL for a long time is you're always going to play old teammates. You're always going to play friends. You're always going to play old coaches on different staffs. And you're always going to kind of continue to run across one another, whether they left on good terms, they left on bad terms, So there's really nothing extra there for me. It's just opportunity for me and my teammates to, go out and play in a playoff game, which they worked so hard for and they deserve to be in. So
let's look at this game up against Jacksonville. We know they love to run the ball. Certainly they'll throw it when they need to, but with the backs they have, the line and their offensive scheme they have running the ball. So give us a breakdown of them. We know how great their defense is, but the side of the ball you'll be going against, give us a little bit on that Jacksonville offense.
Well, I think, it starts with the running backs with Fournette and Ivory and Yeldon. I don't know if anybody's got a stable of running backs like that in the league, at least three. I mean, that jumps off the page when you watch those guys. Offensive line, big physical guys, and they're committed to the run game. So it's something that defensively we're going to have to be prepared for. We're going to have to, be really focused on our details of our run fits and different things like that, because they're going to challenge you that way. They can shrink the game and take it over. So it's a great challenge for us. We're excited about it. We'll be up for it. We're going to have a great week of preparation with a lot of energy, and we're going to be excited to go.
Kyle, take people inside a little bit. For a guy like you that's been around for a long time, you've seen about every formation you can see, and I talk at times about when players get game plans on Wednesday and, you have this amount of percentages in this formation, they do this or that. You've been around a while. You've seen it all. What is your film study about now? When you're going into the film room, is it the schemes? Is it the guy you're playing against? Let people know how you prepare individually to battle against an offense.
Well, a lot of times early in the week, before we start getting into game plan specific things, I'll watch individual linemen. I'll watch all of their offensive linemen. I'll watch run pass keys. I'll watch stances. I'll watch formations. What do they do in the backfield? And then I'll start getting a feel for what they like to do. What does this guy do well? So maybe I can go to Jerry Hughes and be like, hey, I've been watching this, and this guy does this well, and run and pass. And then I can kind of work my way down the line where it's not just about me. It's helping all the guys on the line, kind of helping them with their preparation. But, I'm like, okay, well, what are they doing out of this? What does this guy do well? What does he not do well? What has he struggled with? And then it'll kind of evolve for a couple of days, and then we'll get in today when we start getting into game planning and their run game. I'll have a pretty good handle on, what they like to do, and then I just kind of expand it from there. So, we'll start putting in our game plan, our defenses, the things that we're going to do. We'll figure out what we want to do on third down against them and just kind of marry all of those in and kind of bring the D linemen along with me and make sure that we're all seeing things the same way so we can communicate fast and we can play fast.
Bills defensive tackle Kyle Williams with us on Golic Wingo, and you mentioned about the running game of the Jags. We got to ask you about Shady McCoy. He went out of that win over the Dolphins with that ankle injury, had to be carted off. It looked really bad. What can you tell us about his availability for this game Saturday?
I don't know. I know that he's been in the training room, and obviously we're hopeful he can play. He's a big part of who we are, a great player for us and a great teammate. So, we're all pulling for him, and hopefully his ankle will be something that can hold up and let us have our running back that we desperately need.
Yeah, I'm sure like most players, if he can get out on the field, he's going to try and get out on the field. Kyle, how about this? How about if you had a microphone and you were in front of the tens of thousands of Buffalo Bill fans that, like you, have been waiting and waiting and waiting, and this moment is finally here? What would you say to those fans?
Well, I'm so happy and thankful for those guys. In my career, I've tried to be very vocal about our fans and how great they are and who they are and what they mean to us. I think more than anything, as I kind of thought about it over the last day or so, is, let next year when the football season rolls around and they're getting into the playoff hunt or it's preseason, they're talking about playoffs. They don't have to stomach the thing, oh, well, the Buffalo Bills are in 17-year playoff drought, or, oh, hey, they're coming a 18-year playoff drought. They don't have to take that anymore. They don't have to listen to that anymore. And I know that's a tremendous weight lifted off of them, and I'm so happy for them. And like I said earlier, I'm so grateful that I could be here for so long. But, more than anything, I was standing in that locker room when I saw that whole thing was over.
Yeah, and to see how the fans have reacted, donating all that money to Andy Dalton's foundation. Over 150,000 now Buffalo Bills fans have donated to Andy Dalton's foundation because obviously the touchdown pass put you guys in the playoffs. That was a great thing to see as well. Hey, Kyle, congratulations, man. A long time coming. Enjoy the heck out of this, man, because it's been 12 years in the making. We appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Kyle.
I will, guys. Thanks a lot. Hey, not a very, very nice comment about Notre Dame. That was not nice at all. I heard that before I came on. That was painful to listen to the first thing in the morning.
I told them to not have you be able to listen to that. I apologize. Actually, I don't.
Look, it's painful for me every morning listening to it, all right?
Oh, I can imagine.
Kyle,
right,
we
guys,
appreciate
have a great day.
it. You too, Kyle. Man. Thanks so much. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2 as we're rolling through a Wednesday morning. And we just had Kyle Williams on as the Bills are back in the playoffs. For the first time since 1999. But today is a very special, and I guess it makes sense that it would happen, that the Bills would break that drought this year,
right,
because today, January 3rd, 2018, is the God, I feel old.
Yeah, we are old.
Thank you. I should just accept it. The 25th anniversary of what I thought was the single greatest game in the history of the NFL.
The great comeback,
The great comeback game between the Houston Oilers and the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills were down 38 at one point, and it came back to win that 38-3, I believe it was, and came back to win 41-38 in overtime. One of the craziest games I've ever seen in all time, and it was just nuts. I mean, all the Houston Oilers, were you on that team? No, you had already moved to Philadelphia. You already moved to Philadelphia.
Oh, it was gone, yeah.
Yeah. But all the Oilers needed to do in the second half of that game was literally get a first down in the second half, and it would have been over. I mean, it was 28-3 at the half, and then they had a pick six that made it 35-3. And then the Bills stormed back with 28 points in the third quarter.
It's unbelievable. Frank Reich.
Yeah. And with their backup quarterback,
yeah,
because Jim Kelly was out. He was hurt in the season finale, which was against the Houston Oilers in the House of Pain, the old Astrodome. And at that point, Frank Reich had the biggest comeback in college football as a Maryland quarterback against Miami, and then did it against the Houston Oilers as a member of the Buffalo Bills. And what made that game great for me was not only the comeback, but the Bills took the lead 38-35, only to have Houston come back and tie it to send it into overtime, and then in overtime they get the field goal to go on and win it. It was the craziest thing.
Really was incredible. So let's add to some of the other things on this day in sports. Again, January 3rd. Let's go back to 1920, shall we?
Let's do it.
The New York Yankees purchased Babe Ruth from the Red Sox for $125,000.
Now, at that time, that money seems like an astronomical
unbelievable amount. And now with most of the athletes, they could find it in their couch.
Hembo, do some calculating. What would $120,000 in 1920 be equal to today? Because that was a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
However, Yankees got the better of that deal. No matter how much that money calculates out to be, Yankees got the better of that deal.
How about on this date, January 3rd, 1973? I love how they write this out. The Columbia Broadcasting System,
why wouldn't it be?
CBS, sells the New York Yankees to a 17-person syndicate headed by George Steinbrenner for $10 million.
Hembo, calculate those numbers as
Keep
well.
Keep calculating, Hembo. Keep calculating.
As we're presented by Progressive Insurance, we're going to make sure that Hembo progresses us with these numbers. We need 1920 money, $125,000. What would that be today? And 1973, $10 million. What would that be today?
And I have one more for you. In 1983, on January 3rd, Tony Dorsett sets an NFL record with a 99-yard rush. The Cowboys against the Vikings. Hembo, find out what in 2018 a 99-yard rush would be.
It would be a 99-yard rush.
Oh, it would?
Yeah, just so we're clear.
Oh, okay.
That was in the old Metrodome. And you remember at the old Metrodome, the sidelines and the yard markers were not painted. It was like a chalky substance.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There was always chalk all over the field.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was, by the way, that was in the strike-shortened season of 1982. That wasn't a playoff game.
No, it was not.
That was a regular season game that helped the Cowboys get into the playoffs that year. But, yeah, that was a regular season game.
And then January 3rd, 2003, Ohio State beat Miami double overtime in the Fiesta Bowl, 31-24 for the national championship. That was the BCS title. But, boy, I remember that game.
That was the late flag game.
Yes,
the late flag
it was.
on the pass interference when Miami thought they had won it. So that was an epic college football game. Coming up, when we come back on Golic and Wingo, we'll talk to Kirk Herbstreit about another epic college football game, the amazing Rose Bowl he helped call on Monday night, and who has the edge in the all-SEC showdown for it all. Again, we will be on the road with you in Atlanta for Alabama and Georgia, but Kirk Herbstreit among the guests joining us when we come back on Golic and Wingo, rolling through this Wednesday morning.